Ready to get the inside scoop on equity funding? Tune into TDJ Equity Funding Insiders Podcast for an in-depth look at what it takes to access financial capital and maximize your investments. Hear from experienced professionals, including bankers, underwriters, loan officers, and industry experts as they share their unfiltered stories and valuable lessons on securing funds.
Okay, well, welcome to another show of the Giving Power to the Business Owner series. I am Jacqueline Jackson, your host. This series, GPBO, is all about equipping, elevating, and empowering business owners with the tools, strategies, and mindset needed to take control of their vision and build sustainable assets and success. Here, we focus on real conversations, practical insights, and the kind of knowledge that moves you from working in your business to truly owning it. GPBO, Giving Power to the Business Owner, stands for more than just a title. It represents giving business owners clarity in their direction, providing practical strategies for growth and scalability, opening access to expert knowledge and lived experiences, building confidence to lead, decide, and execute with purpose, creating a space where business owners feel seen, supported, and empowered. This is where business meets ownership and ownership meets power. Now, let's get into our conversation today. I am excited to welcome to our guest is Dante Royster, right? Want to make sure I say it right.
Royster.
Royster, thank you. All right, so then I apologize. Dante Royster. And he's coming to us as a veteran in the mortgage broker. He's a veteran mortgage broker. He's the founder of Epic Mortgage and the author of the Ultimate Mortgage Guide. If you would, real quick, where can they get that book? I want them to get that early.
Amazon.com.
Okay, so it's at Amazon. All right, so you all
Yep.
definitely want to look into that. Now, before he entered the mortgage world, Dante was a standout college basketball player. He's learned discipline, teamwork, and resilience on the court. Skills he now applies to helping clients make smarter decisions about their homes and finance. Today, he specializes in owner-occupied mortgages, showing homeowners how to, one, use the equity in their primary residence strategically, not fearfully. Tap the equity to acquire additional property and begin building real estate portfolio. Align their home financing with the long-term stability, retirement, and for the wealth goals. So with that said, let's get into it and welcome Dante to our show today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, if you would give a little bit of, I know I did some of your things of what you have done, what you are doing very, very great on a lot of avenues with helping with people with home ownership, and we love that. Can you tell us a little bit about you so we can have a little feel of you?
Well, I'm a family man. I'm married. Been just celebrating my 17th anniversary. Yeah, so that was very nice. And I have two kids, two beautiful kids. One's 12 going to seventh grade, and one's 10 going into fifth grade. So,
Woo, grown people.
man, the activities. I'm the unpaid Uber driver. So,
Right.
man.
Okay, so that's great to know. And when you say that Uber driver, we already know you are involved with the family, and that's what happens as business owners. And that's why we wanted to have you here too, because not only do you relate from the family and knowing how it is to balance everything, but you're going to bring to people some clear understanding about mortgages, and that's why we wanted to have you here. So, with you going through being a college athlete you went from college athletics to building a seven-figure mortgage business. Okay.
Yep.
What are the top 2 or 3 habits from sports, discipline, resilience, routine that directly shaped how you run Epic Mortgage today?
Well, I think the first thing is consistency, that you talk about. That's super key because you have to have daily habits. Sometimes motivation can come and go, right? Everyone's been to a seminar and they get all hyped and juiced, and that will only last for about a week or two. But it's the daily grind of getting up and doing the same stuff over and over again. Moving forward is what you have to do. So I think consistency is so important. The ordinary days make them powerful and make them wins. So from a sports background, it's about winning the day. Carpe diem. We got to win every day that we enter. So consistency is important. Resiliency is very important. Resiliency, in any type of business, you're not always going to hear yes. You're going to hear a lot of
Right.
no's.
Right.
A lot of no's. And if you take it to baseball, you got to remember that, batting 300, you're probably a Hall of Famer. But what does that mean? That means
Right.
you only hit the ball 3 out of 10 times. And then in sales, that's the same way, right? I mean, we probably get 7 no's before we get that yes. So you have to be resilient. You have to have, a tough kind of a tough shell, so to speak. You got to, it's going to be rough out there, and you got to make it happen. And probably the third thing, from a team aspect, obviously I played college basketball, like you said, and so, we were a team. We have to work together as a team, and I feel like real estate overall is a team. It's a team game.
Hmm.
You're going to have a realtor per se. You got your loan officer, the consumer. We all have to be working together for the common good, understanding what the goal is, and we all have to make it happen. So you want to have good people around you, kind of like a board of directors. So use them as a sounding board, so everyone has your back.
Okay, which I think is really great. I think we don't realize when we go to purchase a home. You and I have had these conversations, but when you go to purchase a home, we don't look at it as a team. It's like, I'm gonna get this one person, you're gonna help me do everything, which they can, don't get me wrong, but you need to have the right people in place to help you. And I think that's why we want to hear a lot of people are not aware of that's something extra, I guess, due diligence that you need to do as well, to go along
Sure.
with it. So I think that is really good what you're saying, and hopefully we can relate. And on the win-win, like you said, when you being in what you're doing in business, we have a tendency, Dante, not to look at us trying to win something as much as it is trying to get stuff done. And we don't think of it like that. Hey, you got to win no matter what. Because in sports, that's how we talk. But in the business world, we don't talk that way. Because sometimes, a lot of times, we're by ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Which I know
Exactly.
from building your 7 figure. We had that conversation. So let's talk about this. So most of our listeners, and you probably is business owners and entrepreneurs. From your perspective, as being an owner-occupied mortgage expert, because that's what you do,
Hmm.
residential mortgages. Okay.
Yep.
Um, what do you most often see for as misunderstanding on how their personal home finance affects their ability to build wealth and stability?
I feel like they think that their business finances and personal finances are separate, but it really all kind of goes in line.
Okay,
You
explain that
know,
because we've been taught to keep them separate in the business world. So
you
explain
know, well, you do want to keep them separate, but I do believe that personal finances, your business finances, let's say, flow through your personal tax returns.
that. Okay.
So,
Okay.
the income that you make, the cash flow that you make, is going to flow through your personal. So you have to be mindful of that they kind of go together. They're congruent, they're going to be attached. So you kind of be mindful of, obviously business and then personal. But, I feel like people misunderstand the concept that this will flow. So you got to be mindful of how much you're claiming on your tax returns. So if you're, writing off everything, right, because you don't want to pay the IRS,
Mm-hmm.
that could affect your situation because now you don't qualify for a mortgage. So you have to be aware of what you're trying to do, if you're trying to go traditional paths. We also offer alternative paths, but I think a lot of people, especially if you're looking for down payment assistance and you're looking for some of those grant programs, they're looking at tax returns in order to qualify. And so we have to be mindful of how, they're really not separate in that nature. How much money you show on your tax return from a business perspective is going to flow into your personal tax return.
Turn. And let's talk on that a little bit because what you're saying is really key. And I want to make sure everybody can understand where he's coming from. We're taught in the business world the personal business being separate, but they both affect each other.
Correct.
And that's what you're saying. So y'all understand. So he's saying if you got a business that's not making money and you're going to use that business as a way to show you have income, that business just affected you personally. You can't get a house, you won't qualify. So
Correct.
so that's why he wants to we want you all to learn how to actually balance that and how that can be used and pay attention to that as being something you need to notice. So basically that's what you're kind of saying is they need to understand they affect each other.
Yeah, and we go back to team, right? So everyone has a job description, right? Everyone has a job to do. But one thing I want everyone that's listening is to know that you should know everyone's job. Just because your accountant that's what they're going to do. They're going to file your taxes. You still should know what the CPA, the accountant is actually
I
doing. What
know
is
that's
he
right.
filing? You got to be able to look at those things and be able to check because that's when you hear the stories about, oh, they took my money. I didn't even know. Well, how did you not know? Because you never checked the books. You never looked at it and you didn't know what you were looking at. So I'm
Exactly.
not saying for you to be the accountant, don't wear all the hats because that's
Right.
overwhelming. But you do need to be able to look over there and understand what a tax return, how it actually works. Whether you're a 1099, a schedule, what would that be? A
See, Schedule
schedule
C.
C, schedule
Okay.
C, or if you have a corporation, schedule E, or if you have real estate, schedule E. So these are things that you should know. And then you should be able to look at it and then understand what the accountant is doing because a lot of times they come to me and they'll say, "Oh, well, I made $100,000." Yeah, but you see right here, he wrote off $99,000.
I know,
You're
right?
only claiming $1,000. Oh, but you didn't say anything because you got the refund, so you were happy, but you don't
Right.
know how that affected you. Now you're trying to do something,
Right.
and it doesn't go hand in hand. So that's where I'm like, business and personal. I know from a procedures, yes, we should keep them
Well,
separate.
corporate way is separate,
Yes,
but yeah, when
separate.
accounting wise, but yeah, they do affect. That's why I say I think the word that we could use because you made a great point. They affect each other.
Correct.
So let's talk about because I know you do mortgage residential, but you also do non-owner occupied too. Those would be like what vacation homes? If somebody want a vacation home
Yeah,
or
second home.
second
Yeah,
home,
second
something.
home. You could
Okay,
put 10% down.
right. So you do those as well. Let's say this. So what I've noticed with people getting mortgages, a lot of time people don't read, like you talking about the taxes, they just don't read the taxes. They see numbers and shut down. And you
Correct.
should be able to know what each number is saying about you. And if you don't, you need to ask that because that's
100%.
what people do. Do you know how many business people I've worked with in my life that told me, oh, I'm not a numbers person. I let my CPA do that.
Eh,
So what does that look like, Dante? I already know you know what that looks
man, that's not good. That's what that looks like. That's not good. That's a problem.
That's a problem. And people have to understand it's so much education out here you can get. You can get with people that can help guide you. I know you're really good at breaking down what they have in a contract with you on the
Sure.
HUD. You're really good at making sure they understand. And that's what I like about you a lot. You want to make sure people understand what they're doing, what they're signing up for. A lot of people don't do that, Dante. They don't. And
No.
that's why Epic Mortgage is where it is today. So definitely want to thank you for being the person you are. Let's go to the next question. You
Mhm.
talked a lot about being strategist rather than just a loan officer. What does a mortgage strategy look like for a family in their primary home, and how is that different from the way investors should be thinking about leverage?
I mean, strategy will bring about different questions, right? And different questions would be like, how much equity do you have in your house? One thing is equity doesn't matter if you're not going to use it. And you need to know how much is there. So we really have to be cognizant of how much do you owe? What's the value of your home? Because that fluctuates. And that'll
Right,
fluctuate, every 4 months, really. Almost every quarter, it'll fluctuate. And so we have to just be cognizant in case of an emergency, we may have to tap in case of maybe wanting to start a business, buy properties. We can use that equity to affect us. Actually, I always talk about Epic Mortgage. We wouldn't be here if Dante didn't have a house with equity. And I
right,
was able to take that money out. Because think about it when you hey, for all your listeners out there, you want to start a business, you want to be a bakery, or you want to have an event center, whatever you want out there, and you go down to the bank, you say, hey, I got an idea, I want to start something, I want to start a business.
mm,
Most banks are going to be like, well, do you have 3 years of history showing me that you have success? And you're going to say, no, I just had this idea, I think I can do it. They don't want to say, I think I can do it. That's not acceptable for them.
right, right.
And so sometimes if you have those ideas and you want to really make it happen, it's the equity that's going to get it going because there's no strings attached to that equity. Once you're able to get that money out, then you can actually start your dreams and make your dreams happen.
Okay, so let me ask you this: when it comes to equity, how do we go about finding out what equity we have in our home, and how often should we do that?
I think at least I would say minimum once a year. You could talk to your local realtor in the area. They can do what is called, like a BPO, a broker price opinion. They can kind of look around and see what homes that are similar like yours within a 1 mile radius has sold. So you can have an idea of what the potential value of the property is
Gotcha.
versus how much you owe. So, I know a lot of times, back in the day, we used to get the mortgage statements in the mail. Now
Right.
everyone, but now it's on your phone. So people don't look at it, but you got to look at those apps.
Right,
And
right.
and it will, and even some of the apps will show, hey, we estimate your value of the home is this, and hey, this is how much you owe. The difference in between, that's your equity, and you might be able to tap into it.
Okay, which is a good idea. That's right. So we want to be on top of it. Again, doing what you're saying, staying on top of things and doing the due diligence. And that would be one. Once you get the house, there's still certain stuff you need to keep going on with it. It's not
Hmm.
just always about getting it. I love that. All right. You often emphasize proactive planning and home equity. Okay. For an owner occupied borrower, a resident owner who's also running a business, how should they think about tapping or protecting equity so they prepare for life and business surprises? How do they do that?
I want to use an analogy, and I want you to help me on it. A generator. When
Okay.
do you buy a generator for your home? Do you buy it when the lights go out, or do you buy it before the storm?
We buy it when the lights go out. That's when we're looking for it, but we should buy it before then. So I get it. You're right.
There you go. So your home equity is like your emergency generator for business owners. And you want to tap in before that storm comes.
What you need it.
Because when things get tough, and this is something that I've just noticed, and I know you know this, when things get tough, no one wants to help you. When you're all up in the sky, everything's going great, you're
But when
making money.
you don't need the money,
Correct.
you won't get the loan. You don't need the
Correct.
money. It's when you need it, you're not getting the loan.
Correct.
You
100%.
get the
When
loan,
you
right?
need it, no one wants to touch you. You
Nope.
smell. But man, when you're successful and everything's good, man, they're offering you left, right. So you have to take
Right.
advantage of things when the opportunity's there. Grab it when you don't need it versus when you do.
Okay, which is a good idea. All right. So relationship driven growth is a big part of how you built the Epic Mortgage. Okay. What have you learned about building strong relationship with realtors, past clients, referral partners that a small business owner in any industry can apply?
I say this, people really don't refer you because you're good.
Hmm.
People refer you because they trust that you're going to make them look good.
Oh, okay.
It's a situation where at the end of the day, if I'm going to stick out my neck, open my mouth, and tell them to call you, I don't want that to come back on me. Man,
I know
why'd you
that's
give me
right.
this guy? Why'd you give me this girl? She's horrible. She didn't call me. Now that stress and stuff they don't want to deal with.
Right.
People only are going to refer your name if they trust that you're going to make them look good. Girl, you gave me this guy, man. He was great.
Right.
Then they feel better. See, I told you. He helped me, he helped you. So that was the thing that I had to learn over the years that relationships are so important and treating people right, doing the right things. These are all basic concepts, but I can't encourage enough for all business owners, having deeper relationships with people where they
Right.
trust you and they understand. Even sometimes, it's not always going to be pretty.
Right.
Sometimes it gets a little messy. But as long as they understand what's going on, where we're at, and how he helped or she helped get it done, I think that's the key.
Okay. Okay. I can see that. And so that makes a lot of sense with us trusting, building the relationships. And I know I hate to say this, and I haven't had it with you, but I've talked to some other people that have been on our show. We had a conversation. It's a shame that the one that has integrity is what they're looking for more than anything. If you have integrity, you're gonna stand out because a lot of people are just about the money, and you could tell it's about the money. Look at the customer service. So we see what's going on. We go to the grocery stores, when we go to the mall. I mean, a lot of it has changed, but I have found out when people feel that they can trust you, like you saying, you're not gonna let me down when I refer somebody to you. That's what I'm more comfortable with than anything because they're going to take care of you. So you're right about that. And now, in the economy we're in now, that is really more important than people realize. I know we're having a bad time with everything going on, but we have to realize relationships and being integrity and being right is more important than whatever's going on out here in order for us to be successful in whatever we do. So I definitely agree with you and thank you for mentioning that. So, as an author, which I'm so proud of you. You're an author of Ultimate Mortgage Guide. Now, if a first-time home buyer entrepreneur could only remember three core principles from the book to avoid costly mistakes, what would they be?
The first one is, and I just had this conversation today. When if you go to a bank, if you go to a big box bank, generally speaking, they're going to get your documentation or you input it on their website, and they're going to spit out, hey, you're pre-approved for 400,000.
Okay.
Just because you're pre-approved for that number doesn't mean that's the house you should be buying,
Really?
because that's not necessarily the life you want to be tied to. Because with that comes a payment that
Mhm.
you have to make every month. And when that closing's done, no one's going to be around to help you but you. Really one of the things I do when it comes to pre-approvals is I really focus on, what is the payment you feel comfortable with, and I rather work towards that payment than actually what you may qualify for. So yes,
Right.
you may qualify for 500,000. That's great. But if you don't like that payment, maybe we should dial it back and go to 280.
Right.
We might have to do that. So that's the first concept that I really wanted to kind of relay to people in the book. The second thing about the book, and one of the, kind of the subtitle is, it's not about the interest rate. Yes, interest rate is important, but it's not the be all end all. It really is the overall strategy. The cheapest loan becomes the most expensive decision if that's not, so sometimes, we get these things in our life, and sometimes a house can be one of those things. It's milestones like, oh, I'm supposed to do all this stuff. But is that the right strategy? Is that going to get you to the, I think freedom is the ultimate goal that we're all trying to
Right.
obtain. And so it's like, let's not forget about the end goal. Is this the right strategy? Is this the right time? And so, don't get so caught up. And we just talked about relationships are so important that, don't who cares? Oh, this guy's got the lowest rate. But if it's a better relationship over here, I'd rather work with that guy over there all day, every day. The third thing that I kind of reference in the book, I think to myself is I really want people to understand this concept that the closing day is really day one.
Right.
Now you're the homeowner, as you should be. But now that's day one. Closing day kind of is like, oh, it's over. I did it. No, that's when home ownership really begins,
Right.
and,
Right.
and it takes, and things worth anything take time, and so you're not going to get equity on day one. It may not be until, the 10th year, the seventh year, where you really start seeing the power. We just did a refinance for a client of mine, and I helped him buy his house in 2016. And the property that he bought was for 200,000.
Mhm.
And so now we did a refinance 10 years later, and his house is now worth 400,000.
Wow.
It's doubled in 10 years.
Right.
That's the power of having home ownership. That's the power of having this equity and appreciation that will occur just naturally. But you don't see that maybe on day one, but closing day is day one. And I wanted people to understand that.
Okay, gotcha, which makes some sense as well. So you are actually a host of the Epic Spotlight podcast, correct? All
hmm
right. Which focus on helping people build a healthier, wealthier, and more fulfillment life. What patterns have you noticed among your guests about how they think about differently about money and business and risk?
I would say income versus assets. They have that conversation. They're really into assets. They're not necessarily into income per se. I
Right.
think successful people overall are more about probabilities over guarantees. They really are hedging their bets. They're looking at it, and they're constantly thinking of ways to obtain more assets. I really have noticed that they don't necessarily avoid risk. A lot of people, the majority of folks will want to think of a concept of avoiding risk. I don't want to take a risk. But I think successful people understand, to get a big gain, you have to take a risk. You
Right.
have to take that leap of faith. So I think a lot of people that are successful are very faith-based. They have a faith and they have a belief, to whatever God that they're believing in,
Right.
but they have a faith base that, hey, I'm going to take this risk because I know it's worth it.
Right.
versus staying status quo. So I really, those are kind of a couple things I've noticed.
That's in them. Okay, and I agree with that too on that, how they kind of look through that. Now, the next question I have is many business owners are torn between, and I've had this with my real estate friends, and I've had it with some of my business friends. So I'm loving to ask you to see what you're going to say as the mortgage person. Many business owners are feel torn between reinvesting everything into the business versus prioritizing a home ownership. How do you guide clients to decide when it's time to buy a home, upgrade, or stay put while they grow their companies? And should they do their company first and then get a house, or do a house and then a company? I threw that one in there. I threw that in there, Dante. Okay.
I'm a believer of company first, then get the house. I think overall that makes a lot of sense. You do understand that, starting a business from a mortgage perspective, you're going to have a 2-year history.
Okay.
So you have to keep that in mind. So you're going to have to sit on the sidelines. It's
And wait a
to
minute, when you
me
say 2 year history, you mean like I have to have 2 years of revenue?
of business, yes,
A
yeah.
business. Okay, okay. Because you don't have the W-2, you got to have 2 years, you got to been doing it. Okay, I got you.
Correct. Yeah, they want to, because let's say you start a business today and you make $100,000 your first year. They don't know if that's the average, is that the norm. So they at least say,
Right.
"Hey, give me 2 years so I can get a better feel for this
What you
business."
make. Okay.
Of how much you make. So I lean on, you know, what will what option gives you more options 5 years from now?
Hmm.
That's a question that I would ask somebody. I say, what option, either reinvesting in the business or buying a home, gives you more options 5 years from now? I think we do have to get comfortable in talking to our future selves.
Yes.
5 years from now, what would Jackie say in 5 years? What would she say in 10 years from now? What would she say in 20 years if I
Right.
make this move today? I think we have to talk to our future self and let our future self give us answers. I know sometimes, especially on these podcasts, people are listening and they want to kind of rely on my answer. But the
Mm-hmm.
true answer is your answer. You're your own best financial advisor. You know what keeps you up at night. You know what's going to make you bite your nails and get you stressed. So you have to kind of make these decisions, but ask yourself that. Talk to your future self, and then you'll know what the right answer is.
Right, right. And I think that's good. If you look at where, and I do that sometimes, like, where do I see myself in 5 years? Because if I see myself at this place, running this company or doing whatever, then I'll start working today toward that. And I guess that's what you were saying when it comes to the home ownership. You're in a business. If the home ownership is in 3 years, then you're going to start doing your business in a way where you can show and document everything so you can show that so you can get a house. So I think that's great. And we'll start from the future where we want to be and start today being that, I think that'll help us be on a better pattern, a better path. Okay,
Yes.
great. All right, next one. Many business owners feel, no, not that one. Can you share a story without names, okay,
Mhm.
of an owner occupied client who made a smart strategic mortgage decision that changed their family's trajectory, and what lessons a business owner listens today should take from that?
I think about a client I had, and we had a strategy call. We had
Okay.
a strategy call, and this woman agreed with me and took the leap of faith. She was nervous, buying her nails. Is this the right move? And just wanted, it was about repositioning herself to open up doors. And in this case, we talked about, the value of getting a line of credit out. And so she got the line of credit out of her home that she's been in for about 20 years. And then she took that and then she bought a property and fixed it up herself and did her own thing. And then she sold it. And when she sold it, she called me. And, she made over $175,000.
Oh, wow, that's great.
And she cried. She was crying. And it just showed me, I had, not to say I pushed her or forced her, but I had to nudge her that
Right.
this was the right decision. This is something that she believed in. And I said, well, if you believe it, then now is the time to take advantage. And here's the opportunity. You have the equity. Here's a line of credit that we can offer you. Let's go get this money. Because like I said earlier, equity is nothing if you don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just money inside your walls. And right now, thanks to the pandemic, right? The silver lining of the pandemic is that we all have this abundance of appreciation that's all in our walls. And we have
Mm-hmm.
to take it out, because if you don't take it out, we got to use it. We got to use it for our own betterment. So whatever dream, whatever goal, and now she's able to start a business. Now she's able to do things that she never imagined doing or thought she was going to have to do 10 years, 20 years down the road. She can do it now. And so that story just always reminds me of my purpose and why I'm here to help people and let them know what's available to them.
Okay, I'm sure. Now, Epic Mortgage, can you tell everybody where you located? Because I want them to know that.
I'm in Brookfield, Illinois. Brookfield is about 20 minutes west of downtown Chicago.
Okay.
And but we are a regional mortgage broker, so we are licensed in the state of Texas and Georgia,
Okay.
Florida. We're in about 9 states right now currently. So Michigan, Indiana, and such. So we're helping as many folks as we can. We're showing, we're telling them these stories. We're showing them different strategies to consider, and we're trying to help people get into home ownership.
That's exactly right. So let me ask you this. So what could you actually say to our listeners? What is something, and this is on you as a free fall, for you to kind of put out there, because you have a podcast too, and that's why I don't mind doing this with you. What's something you want to talk to them about to tell them so they can be aware of? I want to give you that room.
Your home is your foundation. It's the start. It's not the end. It's the beginning of something special. And you have to have the mindset of obtaining freedom, really, ultimately. And figuring out ways to do that. For everyone, it's going to be a little bit different,
Mhm.
whether it's starting a business, being a real estate investor, what have you, stocks. But you have to find your path and move forward. You have to take action. We have to lean on podcasts like yours, like Epic Spotlight, all these different podcasts that are positive and giving you information and strategies that can help you grow and be successful. And I think that's what it is. We're not here talking about, who slept with who or anything goofy like that. We're
You
talking
don't have
about
nothing like that at
no, we
all?
don't,
Oh,
no.
okay.
Who's in jail, who got arrested, that's not going to get you moving
Right.
forward.
It's
You know,
not. It's
we got
not.
to figure it out, and we need to have conversations like this more, strategy calls and figuring out, hey, what can I do? Because a lot of people just don't know. I mean, that's a part of the reason why I wrote the book. I was getting the same questions in 2002. I was still getting in 2023. Like,
Right.
it's like, wait, we're not getting this information, in the school systems. And so that's why it's important to have these conversations with people that are professionals and they know what they're doing.
Exactly. And we basically, like ours is TDJ Equity Funding Insiders. We have people on to give them some type of inside information to what they're dealing with. And that's what you're giving. I mean, because people don't realize, like you said, purchasing a home, how can I use that? Because all we think about is just living there. But like you said, no, you have equity in that home if you're looking at doing a business. Because it's sometimes, Dante, and I told you this, that I can't help everybody get a loan, a business loan, a startup loan. We just can't. But it doesn't mean that their credit was bad. It's just that they didn't qualify for it. But when you say, I guess it's a HELOC is what it turns into.
Yes,
Okay, so a home mortgage loan can turn into a HELOC, a line of credit, which means they were able to go get that and do their business. But like I said, people they didn't know they could do that. That's
correct.
what we want you to. They don't even know it's a possibility to actually do that type of thing. So that is great. But when it comes to people buying houses, I do want them to understand you can handle people that's here in Texas and Atlanta.
That is correct. That
Okay,
is
which is
correct.
awesome, awesome. So let's do this. The last thing I had to ask you is if you could leave our audience, entrepreneurs, with one mindset shift about using their personal finance and home as a foundation for long-term wealth, what would it be?
I think the whole theme that we talked about today is options.
Mm,
Relationships give you options, equity gives you options. Um, a good mortgage couldn't give you options. And
right.
I think at the end of the day, if you're an entrepreneur, you're living for options.
Yes,
So
sir.
I think that's the thing. If you're looking for options, then home ownership is a step in the right direction.
I want to know how to go. And if people have questions, and you help me with this, they should not be afraid to ask their mortgage broker, which I know
Correct.
you are someone that they can definitely call, and we definitely want to put out there how do they contact you. So if they want to reach out to you, you can help them with the buying process of buying a home. We definitely want to do that. So We do want to, I'll have you on our referral page, but if you would tell people how they can contact you.
Sure. My cell is 630-776-2016. Or you can find me all these social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, IG, LinkedIn, YouTube is Epic Spotlight or
Everything is
Epic
under
Mortgage.
Dante Royster, right?
Yep, Dante Royster. You'll find me.
Okay, good. You all can get them there. And we're also going to have you on our referral page. You're on there now, where you all can go to the referral page at TDJ Equity LLC.net, where he's actually one of our guests and referral partners that you all can click, and you can actually go to his website. You can see the guy as well, too. You can get with him. So we do have you all connected with Dante because, like I said, it is a resource. As you can see, he's all over the United States. He has great wisdom, great knowledge. And the good thing about him, he has a great heart that we can actually, you can call and kind of reach out to him and see what he can do to help you make those life decisions, because that's what they are. So
Yeah,
whether they're buying a house or if they already have a house and looking at doing a business, they need to call and talk to you about that and look at what their options are. So
definitely.
that's what you say. Well, is it anything else you would like to tell everybody, or as we go forward and get ready to close everything out?
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the opportunity to spread the good word about home ownership. And like I said, if anyone has any questions, definitely reach out, and we'll take it from there.
All right. Well, y'all have heard it from Dante Royster with Epic Mortgage. And you also have Epic, what's the podcast? We want to say that too.
Epic Spotlight on YouTube. Yep.
On YouTube. So you all have both of those, and we'll have those in our reference for you as well, too, as well. So again, I want to thank you so much, Dante, for being here. And I want to thank all our listeners for joining us today and on Giving Power to the Business Owner series. If you would like to be a guest on the show, please book a pre-interview call at www.tdjequityllc.net. We would love to connect with you. Be sure to follow TDJ Equity Funding on LinkedIn and also all major social media platforms to stay updated on our new episodes, our insight, and opportunities that we have coming through. You can also listen to this podcast on all major podcast platforms, including Epic Spotlight. You're on all the major platforms as well. And you can watch the full episode on ours on a YouTube channel, okay, which is TDJ Equity Funding Insiders. Until next time, I want you to continue building, continue growing, and most importantly, continue taking ownership of your power. You all take care.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of TDJ Equity Funding Insiders Podcast. If you'd like to be a guest or get in touch with us, please visit our website at tdjequityllc.net/podcast or email us at podcast@tdjequityfundinginsiders.net. Until next time, take care.